amazing. Welcome back, Shy.
What's up?
Always good to see you, man.
Likewise.
Getting to know that I-5 quite well, I see. Seattle to L.A.
Yeah, all the time,
It's
man.
a beast. So, for those that don't know, again, you're based out of Seattle, but again, spending more and more time here in beautiful Southern California, keeping the whole West Coast connected.
Yes, sir.
And I understand there's a couple special events, with Starbucks. Tell us about some of these performances you just did.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've been touring and doing outreach and music fusion for years now, and over the last couple of years, been touring with Starbucks. And one of our most favorite things to do coming into SoCal is to always book a few of those events, and we had some special ones. One in the city of Gardena. They got their first Starbucks right there in the hood off of Normandy and Rosecrans, and so we did a big grand opening there. Had the mayor come out, the district manager for Starbucks hooked it all up. An amazing crew. They got a little drive-through, a real special Starbucks. It's a drive-through and a walk-up. So if you're in the community and you're walking, there was grandmas with their grandchildren and parents coming out with their kids, walking up and doing their orders and hanging out with us. We had, big free barbecue going on. It was real nice, something really cool for the community. And then after that, we did another show at the Melrose store, Melrose and Stanley, up in Hollywood. So yeah, man,
right there in the heart of West Hollywood, right off of Melrose near Fairfax.
Yes, sir. Right down the street from Fairfax High.
That's amazing stuff. So this new one in Gardena is. I know it's a big deal for the community.
Absolutely.
But is that one of the community stores, or is that?
Well, it's a great question. It's not an official community store, but it took so much effort from the community to get it in. I mean, we actually heard things during the opening ceremony. The head of the Chamber of Commerce there in Gardena did an opening speech, and she talked about just the efforts of the city council there. Different people in the local city government that really had to fight. I guess they've been fighting for damn near 10 years to get a Starbucks there on that block. And they even went to the lengths of getting Magic Johnson involved, and it's been some politicking they had to do. Thank God that Chris Cowell, he's an amazing district manager for Starbucks, very pro-community guy, and he's kind of in charge of that whole South Central district. He's got Compton stores, Inglewood stores, so on and so forth. And he's just got the right attitude for it, and Starbucks has a big initiative right now in getting, people in the neighborhood employed. It's a real big thing that's starting to launch and kick off. And so this is a special store. It's not technically a community store, but, it's one that the community needed.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's a hub of that community, that's for sure. And now, how long have you been dealing with Starbucks? Clue everybody in on the journey here.
Yeah, it's been an awesome thing. The relationship has been ongoing for just over 3 years. Literally 3 years last spring.
Now, how did that start? What was the first conversation?
It really was just an extension of the outreach. We've been in schools, colleges, and things like that for a really long time. And I kind of had a hunch, just like, creating a song, you get that thing. And you hear that inner voice, and we kind of followed it up. We went into a local store in Seattle and started developing the model. And right away was able to land a meeting with the heads of marketing. We actually met them there at that particular store on 23rd and Jackson, which is also the central district of Seattle. And just gave her my heart and told her what I was trying to do, and showed her what the results had been. We had already kind of been in there performing and doing our thing, collecting the data, hearing from the consumers what they wanted, and the store baristas and managers, and everyone loved it. And so they kind of opened a gate that would be based on the premise of the outreach side of it. Even though the music is obviously, what it is. People love the live performance, they love the style, the fusion, the blend. But the outreach was really the seal that made the relationship work. And then from there, I was introduced literally that next day to the former executive vice president, Paula Boggs, who's also lead counsel for Starbucks. And she kind of gave the real, the big blessing that we needed. She sent the word out to the corporate body that what we were doing was what it was, and she kind of stamped her approval on it. She came the following week to a show to watch it for herself. and she really enjoyed it. She's also a musician and someone that we work close with to this day, a very, very dear friend. So it just, it's just one of those things I think that was meant to be, and so we have a unique friendship with them, where we have the opportunity to go into venues and perform for the people and uplift them and inspire them in a new and creative way. It's something that we built, something that we own, and even though Starbucks is a dear friend in the process, it's not something they do. We're always very clear about that fact that they are not trying to get in the music business. They're not trying to do tours.
Don't start lining up
oh
at the
man,
door.
please don't start. We actually had a little situation kind of like that at Melrose, where a youngster was a little frustrated, because he'd been wanting to perform, and we kind of had to explain to him that this is not what Starbucks does. This is what we do, and the real meat of the energy with Starbucks is centered around the outreach, the effect on the community, and so it's it's a special thing, man. We're just very happy to be able to do it, and it's an indefinite relationship, and we're enjoying it. It's working.
Yeah, well, it's always great to see because, again, one person can look at it like, well, that's just the coffee shop on the corner, but you looked at it like it's the hub of the community. There's people of all races and ages and creeds and colors coming through there every
That's
day,
right.
and there's a commonality, and the main thing is all these corporations these days, especially those that are making a lot of money, have got to give back to the community.
Yes.
They got to have a social conscience. They got to be involved in not just taking money from the people of where they, do business, but be a part of that community and see the people, and hopefully enrich the people.
Absolutely, and it's one of the things that for us, I think a lot of people that we see on the surface, they may not understand. They think, oh, okay, here you got with Starbucks. It's like, no, man, this is like, we really find synergy with their initiatives. Like, we wouldn't just go get with somebody just because they are who they are. Like that doesn't matter. At the end of the day, if your interest is uplifting your people, you do want to align with organizations and other groups that are about that. And I enjoy the fact that they believe in hiring right there in their community, right there from their neighborhood, giving kids a shot, giving adults a shot to be employed. And then, of course, the music tie, the natural vibe there is what it is. But moreover, in this day and age, with the industry being in the kind of flux that it's been in, with technology stepping in and starting to do what it does, it actually becomes a perfect platform for those consumers. They're sitting in the stores and they're taking photos and they're sharing stuff and they're getting online and talking about things, and it kind of gives a fresh approach to introducing new music. And so we're super excited about that process too. I mean, that's part of the thing I think that drew Apple to the table at this point as well, and allowing for that experience to be continued. I think there's just a whole new way now. You and I have been talking about it for years. And you've been one of the forerunners of this, the newness that has to come in this industry for artists to have a chance. And so,
Sure.
I think this becomes a little bit of a platform, if not nothing else, to show the light that hey, there's other ways to go about getting this done.
Well, hopefully we've got another song queuing up there.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
yeah, no, it's exciting. When we come back, we're going to talk about the blending of all these styles, because you got urban, you got rock, you got soul, you got pop, you got so much in your music. And again, Starbucks is only the tip of the iceberg. We're going to start talking about some of the other companies and what's going on and all this great stuff. So without further ado, what song are we hearing next?
This next cut, this is strictly for my hip hop heads. This is called All Around the World.
Shyan Selah right here on Indiepower Radio.
Yo, I'm stuck looking at the man in the mirror. A mental photograph, or autograph the mirror. L-O-V-E, we need that.
Shyan Selah live in the studio, Indiepower Radio.
All day.
So, man, I can hear all sorts of genres and legends in there. Talk a little bit of those that are new to checking you out. Again, how you came up in music and how, all these great sounds blend together.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, well, I always tell people I'm raised with a wonderful, fortunate position of having parents that love music, having grandparents that love me. I mean, I'm not talking about just listening on the radio. I mean, collect it, buy it, sit down with them and open up
It's the soundtrack
vinyl
to their lives.
Oh my God! I mean, yeah, come on, man, please, it's an amazing thing. Like music, really, especially for my pops. Like, his lifeline was centered around those songs, man. The era he grew up in the '60s and the '70s, and so some of the greatest musical eras ever. In that time. So he collected all of that, and he was a military brat. So as a kid, he had to go move from city to city to city to city to city, and so music became his friend. That was the one thing he could count on, because every time he turned around, he had to make a new set of friends. He got tired of it, so music kind of became his little outlet. So for us, me and my brothers, we grew up under that influence, and so you hear a lot of that different style, when it comes to my music, rock and blues and soul. And of course, I had the other fortunate position of having older brothers that came up in that hip hop era. I see, the Rolling Stone here with NWA, Dre and Cube on here. Like, that was my older brother's era for real. Like, they were, big time teenage studs running around the neighborhood, bumping NWA and all that stuff from that era. And I got a chance to watch that stuff, too, coming up. So the hip hop, NWA, Public Enemy, Houdini, UTFO, the Real Roxanne. And my brothers were into all of that stuff. So I got Pop's collection, I got their collection. And so, when you hear me, you kind of get a little bit of all of that mixed with my own personality. So, yeah, man.
Amazing stuff. I mean, those record collections were always like a treasure trove. You could flip through and know what that one record is. You could just put on,
yes,
and just change the whole mood, or just inspire the next 5 hours.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And the funny part is, and then you got to, at least in my household, then you had to get the stories of how they got that record. My dad got a million. Oh man, I got off work, man, cashed my check, went down to the shop. Wasn't the record store. Went down to the shop, right, and started thumbing through. I got the new Earth, Wind and Fire, new Commodores, whatever. He throw that stuff on, man, and you got to hear the stories with it.
Right.
So that was always really cool.
Well, plus it's the timeline. Each one of those records, when you put it on, takes him right back to that time. Yeah. When he fell in love with that record or that artist. Yeah. And it's an amazing travelogue, it'll just bring you right back to the feeling and the mood in the air. He probably remembers what the climate was that day.
Oh yeah, he definitely does. He definitely does.
Amazing stuff. So yeah, that's what's great is, like I always say, there's only two kinds of music that moves you and music that doesn't. Yeah. So it comes in all shapes and sizes, and talking to so many artists over the years, it's amazing how they draw from different, inspirations or different influences, but you create your own, and then that inspires someone else. So it's this amazing chain. I was talking to the guys from Wishbone Ash the other day, and they're about to celebrate their 50th anniversary.
Wow.
Half a century in the business. And we were talking about how us Americans, we look to the British, the Beatles and Led Zeppelin, the Rolling Stones, and all these artists as the gods,
Mm-hmm.
but they look to the American artists, Little Richard and Howlin' Wolf and
Chuck Berry.
Jerry Lee Lewis and Chuck Berry and Elvis Presley and all that. So it's gone back and forth. It's like this mutual admiration society. And you can never tell where it started, but when you really break it all down, it did start with the American blues and the rhythm and blues, and so much of that music it came out of churches.
Yes.
And it grew into the soundtrack for the last 50, 60 years. And it's pretty amazing. It makes you feel proud to be an American when you think, oh, you British guys, you started all the David Bowies, all these artists, and then they're like, no, we grew up listening to Motown and all your guys, your blues artists. So it's exciting to see that it kind of one level sparks the next level, goes back and forth. They keep raising the bar, you know.
Absolutely.
And and the world is the benefactor.
Yeah.
so much incredible music, over the years. So I know you have a real independent slant on this, and having been in the industry for so long, you get to see, and again, talk about stories, the artists that had this vision for their music, but then got signed to quote some label, and they gave it up. No, you got to sound like this. You got to look like this. We got to change your name. We got to do this. And after a while, they're like, wow, it's not even me. I'm like this puppet. And then, of course, once they're done with me, they discard me, and I'm broken. I don't
Right.
even know where I came in,
Right.
or how it ended up this way.
Absolutely.
So the power of the independent side of the business, whether it be music or film and TV and reality shows and just the whole industry, like what you're talking about, is these companies that are non-traditional, because growing up you're thinking about, of course, the Warner Brothers and the Universals and the the Sonys and CBS Records, or the NBC and ABC. But now you've got the Starbucks, you have the Amazons and the Apples and the Googles and the Microsofts, and all these companies realize that you can have all the hardware in the world, but if you don't have the software that people want to enjoy, you don't have the the entertainment that really wants is the reason to get that hardware.
Right. Right.
You're in a weak position. So now you talked a little bit about Starbucks. Tell us a little bit more about some of the evolution as you're starting to see more and more of these companies that want to get in the content business. They want to have that positive, energy out there in the communities.
Sure. Well, just doubling back, first off, what you were talking about with the old record label model, signing acts. One of the things that I did really early on was a big historian of the business, like from the legal side. I loved getting the books and reading all about the contracts and the whole legality. I got tons of attorney friends and agent friends, and I spent many years just digesting that stuff. And what I learned was that the original record label system was really an adaptation of the old movie houses and how they would, sign an actor and writers and whatnot and develop character and so on and so forth. So a lot of people don't even really know that whole changing of who you are really comes from them identifying with characters from movie scripts and television shows from way, 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 way back in the day. Those old contracts, some of those record contracts are just old ancient language from way back in those days. Hey, we sign you, you're basically a character now. You're really an actor.
And we own you.
And we own that. That's right. And that's how the old model was. And so it's a little scary when you think that, that stuff didn't evolve behind the curtain in the boardrooms. And I think that, for any business, right, you do what works. I've never seen the industry as the big bad wolf kind of thing. I just always saw them as these are just dudes that just got bored and tired and they plateaued and they didn't evolve and change the game. And then what happens is here comes Napster, here comes MySpace, or here comes Facebook, or here comes Google, and things you didn't foresee because you got so chill, you got so relaxed on your new form of slavery that you didn't really stand with many people and evolve the language and evolve the equity position and the form of creativity. And so you get enough people fed up in that process. And then when it comes to the tech space, they had no real synergy with content creators. And so they were just being creative in their own way, but none of them get signed and bottlenecked, so they're able to just create and create and create, and they came up with all kind of stuff, and they developed synergy with the gaming community that is just a free-for-all. Just come participate. And so that became the model of the new independent musician. I mean, just get on MySpace, man, and just pump your music up. That's like playing video games. There's a kid in Washington can play against a kid in China, and they're just on there having fun, and that's just what they're doing. And so there's some suffrage in that, right? Because it's hard to develop identity in this new way. But then the old way is, feels like slavery. So one of the things that, I wanted to be able to do is, as in this business, you got to have right timing, and you got to have champions that, can feel your cause and what it is you got going on. And I found that in every label, there's a champion somewhere in that boardroom. There's somebody who is kind of a believer, who's kind of like, we need to change some things. We need to do some new deals, develop new ways. But the advantage we had was in the community that when it comes to outreach and activism, you don't toe the line. You're either for the cause or you're not. If you are for cancer awareness, you don't sell that out. Like there's not even it's non-negotiable, at that point. So for us, we kind of had an advantage there because it was like, no, we know the power of getting in front of 2,000 people every time we go do this, or 20 people, or 200 people, and we're just there for them. And we don't need you guys to create that. And so that allowed for some strength and some conviction to go back into play with all the paperwork game. And so now with Starbucks and with Apple, we're able to truly collaborate. And without anyone trying to, assume a position that they are now the creative, when really they should be the vessel that they are to help, get the content out to the people, to the actual buyers and the consumers. So we're really lucky, in that regard. But man, the road, the patience and the twists and the turns and everything that's gone on, like, you and I known each other long enough that, man, if I would have said, I'm start hitting these coffee shops, man, if that was my conversation 5 years ago, we both would have ran out of the room like, yeah, you're crazy. Ain't nothing going on in the coffee shop. But, you got digital, you got people, you got the activism approach, you got good music, good vibe. And now you got this era where it's hard for people to tour and it's hard for them to get a ground game again. And so it's interesting, man. We just feel really blessed. And so Apple is hugely appreciative of what we're doing. And they share the sentiment. We've literally had conversations, I won't go too far into it, but we've had conversations that have pretty much said, hey, we just care about our people. We just want them to know we are behind good stories. And we're behind people making it. We're behind people being on the verge. We don't really need, not that they don't want to sell material. Of course they want to sell all their products. But they've sold enough to have a new concept. And their creative philosophy, in my opinion, is righteous enough to allow for collaboration versus just overtake. And I would say the same thing is true for Starbucks. So we're able to control our destiny and truly collaborate with them. And so that gives us some strength when we work with our industry. Hey, this is a different thing and got to look at this a little bit differently. And we think everybody can win. And I think that really becomes the attitude, being at IES, with what you put together. And again, I want to commend you on that. It was an awesome experience. But hearing from so many different panelists that are now in that space too of how do we collaborate? How do we all win? How can we connect? And the sharing of all that insight, it's priceless, And I just think that our industry, for whatever reason, it just lacked an ability to hear from its own people about what direction to go in. And so now kind of forced to. So it's good.
Well, that is definitely the impetus of why IES exists, the Indie Entertainment Summit, is because this industry that I came up and dedicated my life many years ago to is radically changing and going through shifts, and the old paradigms are no longer valid, or with new technologies it upset the apple cart. Everybody was set in their ways and thought this monopoly was going to go on forever, how the fat cats were getting richer and richer and how they were, so to speak, stealing from the creative community was going to go on forever. And when that started radically shifting, I knew there needed to be a coming together of ideas, and especially in the independent world, there's a lot of forward thinkers. A lot of people are like dealing directly with the end consumer, or directly with the talent, or directly with the buyers of the talent. And they knew it doesn't have to be a certain way. As long as everybody's happy and everybody gets their fair share, there are no rules. As long as this ecosystem, even if it's a new evolving ecosystem, as long as it's balanced, and if it's more balanced to the creator of this content, fantastic.
Yeah.
It's the industry's been ripe with stories for decades of, well, I made this hit single and I never saw a penny from it, and everybody else got rich, and it's powerful, as you saw with IES, of bringing people together that again are part of creating this new ecosystem. As long as you have great content and great platforms to get it out, and people that are willing to support and invest or at least consume what they feel is something they love and a fair price, again, there's room to employ people. There's room to grow careers. There's rooms to see people really evolve in what they can possibly be, as opposed to trying to fit in through that very narrow major label mentality, or that, like you say, the old studio system or things like that. I mean, the advent of content now going directly to the phone.
Yes.
It's truly, truly exciting. You know, the gatekeepers have left the back door open, so to speak. So it's very exciting. It was fantastic to finally get you to IES, because again, you see the potential. Obviously, what we're trying to do, and we'd love to merge all this together, is to make it virtually available to everyone. Sure, there's no question that you coming to Los Angeles, you're able to sit in the room and showcase and be amongst, you know, these bodies is the greatest thing. But if for any reason you're in your day job and can't afford to travel or stuck in some faraway land, we want to try and make it available through the helps of these corporations,
Sure.
where they can log in with their own subscriber number and be a part of this and enjoy this inspiration, this education, and even interact, you know, with it.
Yeah.
It would be exciting to see tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people all over the world, whether you're a musician, songwriter, a producer, a filmmaker, a TV script writer, a comedian, DJ, dancer, actor, poet, whatever you are, you know, there is a potential to, you know, find a way to monetize what you
Absolutely.
do. Find that audience, make it a win-win for everyone, and, you know, create more jobs, create more opportunities for people.
Absolutely. I think the one thing that was driven home to me, you know, at IES was, you know, you have a collective value that of real experiencers that have walked the line. I mean, and representing from all these different generations too, and different levels. One thing that I appreciated, because there was folks that were hot in the 60s and 70s and 80s and each different era. And for me, it resonated because my dad has all the albums from all the different eras. Oh, I remember you, and I remember you, and I remember that record. And to hear their take on what was going on then and how they're still relative now in their spaces and to their consumers and in their worlds, how they're all, you know, still touring, still producing, you know. To hear from Peter, you know, who was on Madonna stuff in the 80s, and also, you know, Gaga.
His father created the Monkees and directed Easy
Crazy.
Rider, the most iconic motorcycle movie ever.
Exactly. And so there's a wealth of knowledge, and I think, you know, the value to an independent artist especially is you get that insight, and you get more than just the how-to, you know, how to get in and what should your approach be and all those different stories. But then you got to see, man, these guys are 30, 35, 40 years, and they're maintaining. You know, what's the secret sauce on the maintain? You know, how are you staying afloat? You're still working with labels and artists and producing records, you know. So to hear from Peter, who worked with Madonna when she was starting and has current credits with Gaga and Beyonce, that's an amazing stretch right there. And though he's born out of the industry royalty, had a hell of a journey to get to Madonna, you know. So I think, you know, stuff like that was amazing to me, and I think that would be an awesome value virtually, you know, if you're someone like me who, like, you know, being on the road, not being able to get to the first 3 IESs, you know, not just
log in. It's the next best
log
thing.
in, log in and
inspire
tune
you
in.
next year, figure out a way to be there in person.
Exactly.
But to, you know, confine that information to only the people in the room is not right, especially in this age of technology.
Yeah.
We need to open it up.
Yeah.
And you saw people from Australia and Japan and Europe and Canada and Latin America there, but just think of all those people that really are trying to plug in. You know, it was hard enough back in the day to try and get into a major label or get into that movie studio system. But these days, like I say, the tools are there for more than ever people to really create their own destinies.
Yeah.
You know, band together as we talk all the time and are creating these platforms for people to be able to plug in, whether it be on the educational side, the performance side, the touring side, the sharing, the collaboration. You can imagine Peter Raffleson could be in his studio in North Hollywood and collaborating with a songwriter in North Korea and a musician in Tibet.
Yeah.
All simultaneously.
At the same time, exactly.
So to open that up on the business side and see talent grow, whether you were on the creative side or you're a tech entrepreneur, you got an idea for, how this can be a better planet, a better way for people to do things. That's what's truly exciting.
Yeah, I see it. I think in its simplest form, IES is music activism. It's bringing the real to the table and it's saying, here's what you got to do, here's how you do it, here's how I did it, here's why it's necessary, here's what you look out for. I loved all the no man is exempt stories that I got to hear because I've preached that forever inside schools and colleges. But to be on panels with other people who've had to live by the, hey, none of us are exempt. And even when you get a victory, you gotta start from scratch. I heard Ice Cube on an interview the other day talking about that. He's saying, he was on the Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
And they had asked him, man, well, you've been successful, you got all these movies and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah, man, but once you do one, you start from scratch on the next one. Because there's just no guarantee that the next movie's going to be a success. So, it's like,
it's a feather in your cap, but you got to go build
back.
New story and a team and investors and everything.
The whole nine. He said, man, I got to go reach back out to the studios and the different people and start it all over, even though I just had a hit. So that's just the nature of the game. It's like, like pro sports. Yeah, you just won the title, but next season's a new season.
It's going to be tougher.
Everybody wants you now.
Yeah.
So I love that, man. I think that keeps it fresh and keep everybody on the humble and cool because that's the nature of our game. And
sure.
I think it's awesome when people who don't know get an opportunity to learn that kind of info.
Yeah. Well, when you love what you do, like I say, that's really the payoff right there. All the residual and the rewards and all that should take place if you're with good people and it can be monetized. But if you love what you do, like I say, there is no goal line.
Right.
You so many people, they're waiting to get discovered. Like you stop working and somebody does it all for you and you just sit back and spend the money. I don't understand that theory. It's like people want a shortcut. It's like they wait until I get discovered or wait till they hear this. Well, that should only be a step along the way.
That's right.
If you love what you do, you should be that painter who's 90 years old still with his easel and his canvas, still painting because he loves it.
Because he loves it, that's
right. He might be in a mansion in the south of France with a multi-million-dollar yacht and, more zeros in the bank than anyone could imagine, but it's the passion.
Yep.
That's the payoff. And to be able to do something you love, you're certainly a rich man already. So that's great for picking up on that. Tell us what new song we have lined up for you.
Man, I'm gonna cook up something.
Please do.
That the first song was a little bit of the rock and roll style. The second song I went pure hip hop. So I'm gonna try to find a nice little blend here.
Okay.
And I'm gonna get into let's see. We'll run a little bit of this. Should I Pray? This right here is Should I Pray. This
Should
is
I
hot.
Pray?
Yeah, this is
Shyan
on the Cafe
Selah.
Noir project, baby.
This is it. Indiepower Radio.
Yeah, I'm sick of this madness. Why everybody want the lavish? Bad habits, hitting my backs and cloth fabrics. Ask it. I got the answer, attach it to every single being on the planet. But
Now, I know you're putting together. Tell us all about the latest project and the album that's coming up and really what that means to you and what's all included in that.
Absolutely. The project is called Cafe Noir, which is just, coffee, black coffee, and, no connotation there to race, but it's just about people in the community sitting down, sipping. I always liken it to my grandma who's old school. She used to drink the old U-Ban and Senka brands of coffee with a big tub of sugar and the whole nine. It was just straight black, man, and just pump some sugar in there. But I just reflect on the conversations, amongst family when I was a kid. But every time I've ever gone into a Starbucks store, whether I'm, taking a meeting or I'm there working on something, and you see all these other people. They're just convening, man. They're just communicating and connecting. And sometimes you even overhear, people working out bills, people working out, field trips or vacations, or I haven't seen you in 5 years. You get a little bit of all that going on in the neighborhood store. So I wanted the music to be a reflection of the conversations that go on at the community hub, the neighborhood spots, as well as meet the vibe of just chilling. When you leave a spot or you're on the way to a spot like that to take a meeting, what kind of music, what kind of vibe do you want to be in? So the Cafe Noir has a vibe and a very consistent kind of structure that gives you the rock, the blues, the hip hop. There's a little bit of R&B in there, right? And a lot of it is really inspirational and spirit filled. And so the project, was super excited for it. Of course, being able to work in conjunction with Indiepower, getting the relationship within Grooves is really cool.
Sure.
John and those guys over there, and Jesse, your boy.
Of course.
That's going to be
Berg stepping up. It's going to be incredible.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun time, and then having the platforms we have to kind of say, hey, we all going to have to figure out how we work this and what we're going to do, and we'll probably make some mistakes, but at the end of the day, I know that we've perfected our lanes. We're all good at what we do, and I think when it comes together, we're going to make some history with this because, there's a Starbucks on every corner,
Yeah.
and there's a neighborhood that trusts it, and that's the deal. And for consumers or for people that want good music, that's where it starts and ends for us. Last night I was in a meeting, and a gentleman asked, so man, what's the demographic, and it's just like, well, honestly, we've moved everything from 5 to 85 in those stores.
Yeah.
People just love it. Every culture.
Humans with a pulse.
Yes.
That's about the demographic.
Yeah, if you're breathing, you're going to be touched walking up in there, man. It moves you. So it's super exciting because we have this vast open space to just be creative and show love. And we get love from the rock and roll cats to the blues cats to the hip hop cats. They all appreciate it. At Melrose, we had at one point, there was a ridiculous sit-down audience, and then this whole overflow onto the sidewalk in the street right there. It was crazy. I remember looking up, in the middle of a song, singing like, "Wow, this is on fire right now."
Right.
It's just so
Stopping
you got that
traffic.
element too. Yeah, you're stopping traffic, and it's a lot of fun, man. So we're super excited for the project. And then of course, as a label, being able to get ready to bring up our next artist, Monica Crystal. We're gonna be working on her project and letting her get ready to set it off. And of course, we're gonna be signing new acts and continuing these platforms. And I'm just excited for it. I'm just glad to be in this position.
Well, that's what it's all about is building the infrastructures for others to come through, and without taking a risk and not being afraid to fail and get better at what you do, nothing is ever greatly accomplished. It's everything's a work in progress.
Yeah.
Like Tech Nine told me recently when he turned down a $60 million deal. He said, "There's not a finish line, and if there is, I'm not there."
Right.
I'm loving what I'm doing. Why would I sell it out and sit back so I can have 5 cars I don't drive? I
Right.
mean, what? I'm living my dream. I'm employing people. I'm seeing more, faces that are loving what we're doing, and hopefully I'm inspiring this guy to
Right.
be a doctor, and this person to be an architect, and this person to make music that touches the world, or make movies or whatever in my audience, and that's what's great to see is not only a platform for your music and your talent to grow, but to really build these infrastructures, like I say, through IES, through these great tours, through these great platforms, and the community outreach to be able to make this a better planet.
Sure.
Because we see still tension and problems in the world, and no one's got the solution to that, but doing great things with good people is a bold step in the right direction.
Yeah. Anytime you can provide a moment of peace, you're in the solution, and I think that's the power of music, man. And that's the power of when we all come together as creatives and people in the business. And like you just said, we're not here. We can't. None of us are problem solvers for the total agenda, but we all have something to offer that just can give a moment. Can produce a thing people can hold on to. And I liken everything to my pop's collection. As wild and crazy as my pop's is, you put on a Smokey Robinson record or a Marvin Gaye record, and you see the truth come out, and it's just, music is just that powerful, and I just think we have an awesome opportunity to get back to that effect now in this day and age. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And truly, water will find its own level. You don't have to go platinum or sell millions of records to be valid. If we can help artists and creative people find a way to make a living, even if it's a modest living,
Sure.
to be able to bring them out of a job or something they hate and actually be more productive at what they truly are, they feel they're on this planet to do,
absolutely.
is an exciting thing. So to see them be able to touch more people, and eventually it grows. Like I say, the police started with 4 guys in a van, but it became 20 tractor trailers in the biggest stadiums and shows that employed hundreds of people and
Amazing.
touched millions of people. And Jay Boberg, by the way, chairman of the board of Ingrooves, was Miles' partner, Miles Copeland's partner.
Oh, wow, okay,
With
so-
IRS
wow.
Records. So he's the one that launched REM and the Go-Go's. And Danny Elfman, of course, the #1 film composer now through Oingo Boingo and The Alarm. And there was just so many incredible bands that Jay Boberg was a part of launching with Miles. Miles had his hands full with the Police and Sting. Believe me, they became so big that he saw in Jay Boberg the guy to run the label, to be his partner and all that. So
Interesting.
it's exciting to bring that full circle.
Yeah.
Through Ingrooves, and he's got some other dynamic companies that we want to share what you're doing with him, so he can really from the top on down let people know. SoundScan and BDS is not the only story here. There's something bigger, and
That's right.
that's with the infrastructure that we build. Again, it's analytics are great, but like you said, it's not a science project. These are real
Right.
people.
Right.
These are real consumers. These are real artists, real songwriters, and let them find their way. Because if analytics or those gatekeepers had their way, the Beatles would have never been signed.
Right.
The Police certainly wouldn't have been signed.
That's right.
NWA most definitely would have
yeah.
never been released. I guarantee you that. So we could go on and on about all the great people that touched the world and are still on top today that came from very, very humble, starts. And without those champions, never would have had a chance to touch the world.
No, and you're right, and for what it's worth, in our dealings with who we're working with, particularly on the tech side, literally the statement has been given, to me and my partners, from Apple's standpoint, we want the story of fulfillment. It's not about selling a watch or selling another laptop. We want to know that consumers in our community are saying, man, this is what's happening in my life now as a result of this experience. That's the new consumer relevancy story of if you're having impact. So even the metrics are shifting. You hear from the reps at Google, you hear from Microsoft, you hear from Apple. They're all talking that language now of, man, we just want people to be growing and being healthy. I've often said, what good is a consumer base that is not wealthy and healthy? If that's not the chief concern, how are they going to buy your product? How are they going to experience it and enjoy it and share it with their family and friends? So it's nice to see that this new community, Amazon included in that, they have this affinity for, we want our consumers to have awesome stories, have an awesome time, to enjoy their lives, and we want to be a big part of, supporting that process. And moreover, that's our new metric. That's how we validate if we're really making the impact that we're making.
Sure.
So for us on the outreach and activism side, that's what we've been doing forever. Are we instilling into people? Are they walking out fulfilled and whole with what we got to give? And so I think the timing is great. I'm excited to start to pull on Ingrooves' ears a little bit and show what's going on in this platform. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun, man. I'm really really ambitious right now. Then of course NWA's news. This resurgent success has just got me just excited.
Well, again, just like the Police story of starting with a very basic recording and ending up with this multi-billion-dollar family tree.
Yes.
It's employing a lot of people and touching and inspiring the next generations and everything. So we're about done with the show, but tell us where we can find you on the web.
Sure. You can always go to www.shyanselah.com. That is SHYAN SELAH.com, ShyanSelah.com. Find me anywhere and I'll be there.
please, let's end this with another song, if you may.
Yeah, we're going to go out to the ladies with this one. This right here is called You Bad.
Thank you so much, Shyan Selah. It's Indiepower Radio. Check out indiepower.com for all the archives of all the great shows. More coming up.
I see you and you think that I ain't looking up. Can't help it, you just so fucking